As of this month, the United States government owes about $39 trillion. Written out, that is a 3, a 9, and 12 zeros. And it grows by roughly $5 billion a day, faster than you can read this sentence. You have heard this number before, usually shouted, usually attached to the word collapse. But almost everyone asks the wrong question about it. They ask how big the debt is. The number that actually tells you something is not how big, it is who. Who exactly does America owe $39 trillion to? Hold that question, because the honest answer is going to break 3 things you have probably been told. It is not mostly China. It is not, in fact, mostly foreigners at all. And the part that should genuinely worry you is not the size of the debt or who holds it. It is a second number, hiding underneath, that just quietly passed the entire military budget. So let us actually open the ledger and see who is holding the world's largest IOU. Not the fear, the names. Before we name a single creditor, we have to cut the number in 2, because $39 trillion is really 2 very different debts wearing one label. The first piece, and the larger one, is called debt held by the public, about $32 trillion. This is the real tradable debt. Treasury bonds, notes, and bills sold into the open market and owed to outside investors. When people say the national debt, this is the part that actually behaves like debt. The second piece is stranger, about $7.5 trillion the government owes to itself. These are the intragovernmental holdings, money one arm of the government borrowed from another. Mostly, it is the Social Security and Medicare trust funds. For decades, those programs took in more than they paid out, and the surplus was, by law, lent straight to the Treasury in exchange for special bonds. So 1/5 of the debt is the government owing your future retirement benefits back to the accounts that hold them. Keep these 2 halves separate. $32 trillion owed outward, $7.5 trillion owed inward. Because almost every scary headline you have ever seen quietly mixes them up. Now put the whole $39 trillion into one picture. The ownership map almost no headline ever shows you. Start with that inward piece. About 1/5 of the debt, 20%, is held by the government's own trust funds, Americans' future benefits. Next, the Federal Reserve, the country's own central bank, holds around $4.5 trillion, roughly 12%, bonds it bought to steady the economy. Then come American investors, and this is where most people's mental map is simply wrong. Mutual funds, which is to say ordinary people's retirement accounts and pensions, hold on the order of $4 trillion. Banks, insurance companies, state and local governments, private pension funds, and households holding savings bonds together hold trillions more. Add every American piece together: the trust funds, the Fed, the funds, the banks, the households, and you get to more than 3/4 of the entire debt. Over 75% of America's debt is owed to America, which leaves everyone outside the country, every foreign government, every foreign investor, combined, holding less than 1/4. That is the real map. And it means the story you have been told, the one where foreign powers own the United States, has the arithmetic almost exactly backwards. Let us zoom into that foreign slice, because it hides the single most repeated myth in this entire subject, that China owns America's debt. Here is the actual ranking from the Treasury's own international data. The largest foreign holder of US debt is not China. It is Japan, with about $1.2 trillion. Second is the United Kingdom, near $900 billion, though much of that is really global investment funds booked through London, not the British state. China comes third, with roughly $760 billion. And here is the part that detonates the myth completely. China is not buying, it is selling. Beijing's holdings are down by about 1/3 over the past decade, from a peak of around $1.3 trillion back in 2013. Year after year, China has been letting its pile of American bonds shrink. So the picture of China as America's landlord, able to call in the loan and bring the country to its knees, is a decade out of date. China holds under 2% of the total debt, a slice it has been quietly walking away from, not building up. The foreigner most invested in America's finances is not a rival at all. It is a close ally.
China is not the exception here. It is the trend. Step back to the whole foreign slice and watch it shrink, not in dollars, but in share. A little over a decade ago, foreign investors held more than 40% of America's publicly traded debt. Today, that figure is down to around a third, and still falling. The world did not stop lending to America. The debt simply grew far faster than foreigners chose to fund it. So who filled the gap? You did. Or rather, American institutions did. The mutual funds in your retirement account, the banks holding your deposits, American households buying treasuries directly. As foreign appetite flattened, the debt quietly became a more and more domestic affair. And that matters, because a debt owed to your own citizens behaves very differently from one owed abroad. When the government pays interest on a bond held by an American pension fund, that money stays inside the country. It lands in an American retiree's account. When it pays interest to a foreign holder, that money leaves. So the shift toward domestic ownership is, in one sense, reassuring. Less foreign leverage, more of the interest recirculating at home. But do not exhale yet, because that word, interest, is the whole problem, and it is where this story turns.
Before we get to that turn, one honest complication. The two slices that are the government owing itself, the trust funds and the Federal Reserve. Skeptics have a fair question here. If a fifth of the debt is Social Security lending to the Treasury, and another eighth is the Fed holding Treasury bonds, is that even real debt? The answer is yes, but a different kind. The trust fund debt is real because it represents a genuine promise. Those bonds are the IOU standing behind your future Social Security checks. Spend that money elsewhere, and the promise still has to be kept from somewhere. The Fed's holdings are real in another way. Those $4.5 trillion of bonds were bought with newly created money to fight recessions, and the Fed is now slowly unwinding them, letting them roll off its books. So the government owes itself is not a magic trick that makes the debt disappear. It means part of the debt is a promise to future retirees, and part is tangled up with the money supply itself. Neither one vanishes. Both still have to be serviced. And servicing, paying the interest, is exactly the number we have been circling. Let us finally look at it. Here is the number that actually matters, the one hiding underneath all 39 trillion. It is not the debt, it is the interest on the debt. In this budget year, the federal government will spend about $1 trillion simply paying interest on what it already owes. Not paying the debt down, just renting it. And to feel how large that is, compare it to what else $1 trillion buys. It is more than the United States spends on its entire military. National defense runs around $885 billion. It is more than the country spends on Medicaid. For the first time in modern history, America pays more to its creditors than it does to its armed forces. Interest is now roughly 1 out of every $7 the government spends. And the reason it climbs so fast is a quiet, compounding trap. The government has more debt than ever, and it is rolling over that debt at higher interest rates than it locked in years ago. Every low-rate bond that matures gets replaced by a higher-rate one. So the interest bill grows from two directions at once, a bigger pile at a higher rate. That is the engine. And unlike the size of the debt, which is abstract, this one has teeth. Every dollar spent on interest is a dollar not spent on anything else.
So how did the number get here? To 39 trillion
and an interest bill bigger than the army. Not overnight. Roll the tape back. In the year 2000, the total debt was under $6 trillion. By 2008, the financial crisis pushed it past 10. By 2019, before the pandemic, it was around 23 trillion. Then COVID hit, and in a few years it vaulted past 34 trillion, and now nearly 40. Notice the shape. The debt does not rise in a smooth line. It jumps in giant steps at every crisis. The 2008 crash, the 2020 pandemic, when Washington spends enormously to hold the economy up. And crucially, after each crisis, it never comes back down. The emergency ends, but the higher baseline stays, because the government keeps running deficits even in the good years. Measured against the size of the economy, the debt is now larger than at any time since just after the Second World War. It recently passed the entire annual output of the United States. And this is not one party's doing. Tax cuts and spending increases under both parties across decades all fed the same pile. The debt is not an accident, and it is not a conspiracy. It is the sum of 1,000 popular decisions that were each easier to make than to pay for.
Now, the honest part, because I have spent 8 minutes naming problems, and you deserve the other side of the ledger, stated plainly. A debt this large, with interest this high, is a real constraint. But it is not the overnight collapse the loudest voices sell, and here is precisely why. First, the United States borrows in its own currency, dollars it alone can create. It cannot be forced to default the way a household, a company, or a country that borrows in someone else's currency can. That does not make the debt free. Printing to pay it has its own cost, called inflation. But it takes the specific nightmare of America goes bankrupt on Tuesday off the table. Second, US Treasury bonds are still the most wanted safe asset on Earth. When the world is frightened, it buys American debt, not sells it. The auction's still clear, the dollar is still the currency the world saves in. And third, the point of this whole video. More than 3/4 of the debt is owed to Americans. It is in large part the country's own savings. So hold both truths at once. This is not a nation about to be foreclosed on by foreign landlords, but it is a nation spending more each year to service its past than to defend its present. And that bill, the interest, is the real thing to watch. Not collapse, constraint.
So step back and hold the whole ledger in one frame. America owes about $39 trillion, but not to who you were told. More than 3/4 of it is owed to Americans and to the government's own trust funds. The largest foreign lender is Japan, not China. And China, the supposed landlord, has been quietly selling for a decade. The debt did not arrive by accident or by plot. It was built, one crisis and one easy decision at a time, by both parties over 30 years. And the thing to actually watch is not the headline number that gets shouted at you. It is the quiet one underneath, the interest. Now past $1 trillion a year, now larger than the military, growing from 2 directions at once. Whenever someone waves the $39 trillion figure at you and points at a foreign flag, you will now know the real questions to ask. Who do we actually owe? Mostly ourselves. And what is the number that matters? Not the debt, the interest on it. One last note, the same as always. This is an explanation of how the system works, not financial advice and not a prediction of collapse. The balances are real and dated. The projections are institutional scenarios, and they can be revised. If this made the machine clearer, subscribe. Next time, we follow the money to the next level of power. This has been Money and Power Explained. Follow the money. It always leads to